The demo and the full state of play for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth dropped, and it's actually crazy how much they want to seem to pack into this game. We'll talk about the full state of play real soon, but I gotta touch on the demo first. I just finished it and I've got some thoughts and I gotta share them. We're gonna break down the good, the Solace, and the bad, the dread, and what might honestly be the 2024 game of the year already. I'm Solace, this is Solace and Dread. We produce analytical content as well as reaction videos, primarily focused on Square Enix, Nintendo, and Capcom publications. Let's start with the Solace, because holy hell is this game beautiful. The performance mode keeps a smooth 60 frames per second, and this is at the sacrifice of some beauty, but it's not so bad that it's even worth calling it out. This is the #1 thing people were upset with during the demo for Final Fantasy XVI, so this should satisfy mostly everyone. But, you know, this is the Final Fantasy fandom we're talking about. Are we ever really happy with anything? Ever. The music during a crucial part, by the way, gave me goosebumps. Like literally, I was looking at my arm. And the combat, it feels better than remakes, and oh my god, they fixed the aggro tables, at least it seems like it. What I mean by that is in the original, or excuse me, in the first game of Final Fantasy VII Remake, the enemies would just follow whatever character you controlled. Didn't matter what you did, they would never just attack your NPCs unless you were in range of them. But as soon as you switched, the aggro switched with you. Now it seems like there's independent aggro tables, which is a huge fucking win. That's what it feels like. It was hard to test, but from what I could tell, enemies stayed locked onto their aggressor rather than switching to whomever the player was controlling. Not in every single case, but in at least some of them. That's all I really wanted. I even made a video talking about it when they showed the first trailer for this, so I'm pretty happy about it. And the combat was actually pretty tough too. I kept hitting the wrong buttons and shit, but I mean, I think part of that is I've been playing Grand Blue Fantasy Relink incessantly, so I think I kind of have some gamer's muscle memory, but still, it's not too easy and mashy. And you can tell that there's more depth than before with the synergy and the dual attacks. I love this. This is my concession. This game might have the best combat system of all time. I really think that they nailed it. We'll find out for sure on the full release, but I really think that they did it. And the demo takes place in one of the more iconic sections of the original game, highlighting the full flashback sequence in the Nibelheim incident. And being able to visit this area in like full 3D and beautifully rendered graphics is kind of surreal. I'm not gonna lie, it's my childhood, you know. Also, the environments themselves just being so rich was really great too. Seeing like the townspeople react to Sephiroth being in town and treating him like a celebrity, and it really gives depth and gives you a connection to that world before something insane happens, right? And on that note, can we talk about how cool they made Sephiroth before he goes all like batshit? He's like a dope Big Brother type, and that's the thing about these remakes, man. They flesh these characters out and the world out so much more than they ever did in the originals. But fleshing out also sometimes means padding. And this is where we start to get into the dread. There's not a lot, admittedly, but I gotta be fair. The part climbing Mount Nibel, there's a long climb, and then some stuff happens that definitely didn't happen in the original. And then you gotta climb some more, and then a big boss fight happens that wasn't originally there, and it's okay. There's like a section or two sections with like a giant industrial vacuum cleaner, and it's just kind of silly and it doesn't really add like fun to the gameplay. And then there's this annoying control with a wheel turn, and it just doesn't really work. And I get that they're trying to immerse you in the world and also tutorialize you, but it's just not interesting, you know. But the original game was guilty of this too, the original being Final Fantasy VII Remake. I just hope that with so much ground to cover in this next installment in this trilogy, that the padding is done in a more interesting way. And seeing the state of play, it seems to be that that's the case. There's also a section in the story that happened in the original game that they made a bit more dramatic, but honestly, it felt kind of awkward. I don't want to spoil what happens, but I'll just leave it at like 4 dudes with guns and no one pulled the trigger. Also, I thought Final Fantasy learned their lesson about limping in Final Fantasy 15, but I guess not. And lastly, there's a beautifully done segment called The Story So Far, and it's narrated by Red 13, which is fitting if you played the original. But honestly, even with that, I'm starting to wonder if this is even a good entry to pick up without having played the first game. Even with this narration, you're dropped in the middle of a very deep and previously ignited story, and the demo only helps to highlight that. If you didn't play the original first game, this might not interest you as much. When I think about the demo for 7 Remake and the demo for 16, they had really explosive hooks that sucked you into the beginning of a story. This one is good, but not to the same degree as the other two, despite what happens. Part of that is because of the final fight in the demo is relatively lackluster in comparison to what happens in the others, but it's just not as much of a strong hook. If I'm being perfectly honest. Linking everything together, if you're a fan of Final Fantasy VII, or if you're a big fan of Final Fantasy VII Remake, even if you're not planning on picking up the game, it's worth picking up the demo just to see such an iconic scene done in a modern way. You're probably gonna be happy with this. It's made for the fans, lovingly so, with tons of attention to detail, and it's a return to form for Final Fantasy with mini games. Even in this part, there was still mini games in the demo. What happened in Final Fantasy 16, man? Anyway, there's just so much more of a lively world in this game. And then there's the normal sin of the remakes with padding, and honestly, I also would understand if you don't want to pick it up if you haven't played the others. It makes sense. So I don't numerically rate things that we talk about on the game. I'll just leave it at this. This one is for the fans. And if you're not, maybe it's not for you. But that's it from me. That's my word on it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon, and long live the Turtle Kingdom. Let me know what your thoughts were if you played the demo.